I'm British and I'm also Greek, so that combination makes me very direct. So I do apologize if I come across a bit as if I'm arrogant. I'm not. I love you guys. I want to connect with you. Yeah? So I do want you guys to ask questions at the end and just floor me and lay the smack down. Yeah? If you think I was wrong, I don't mind. I like discussing. Yeah? You know, Greek villages are always discussed, especially about politics and football and money. And when it gets late at night, sometimes women. So, you know, there you go. Let's start with the first principle. Progress and scientific revolution. Now, who has an iPhone? Good. You have an iPhone? Good. Well done. BlackBerry, computer, PC, I've seen them outside. If Muhammad upon him be peace did not exist, one would argue you wouldn't have these things. Let me give you the link. Right. We know Muhammad upon him be peace was the carrier of the message of Islam. And the Quran, which is the book of the Muslims, and his prophetic traditions, they were implemented socially and politically in a certain environment in the past. Medieval Baghdad, Islamic Spain. So when we do a reading on Islamic Spain, what do we see? We see that as a result of the tranquil and just principles from these two sources, the Quran and the prophetic traditions, when they were implemented in Islamic Spain, it created that environment for Muslims, Jews and Christians to look into the interconnecting principles of nature. This is why Adam Smith, the modern founder of capitalism, 18th century philosopher, he basically wrote a letter, an essay, and you can find this in Adam Smith's essays published in London. He says that the empire of the caliphs, which is basically the empire of Islam, of Muslims, the empire of the caliphs was the first state, number one, the first state to which that degree of tranquility was implemented that was necessary for people to look into the interconnecting principles of nature. There's the link. And we see this from the prophetic traditions because Islam, as a socio-political model, if you like, was one of the first religions that allowed that form of convivencia, that coexistence. Because the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, and listen to these words carefully, said, whoever harms a non-Muslim under our protection harms the Prophet himself. And again, and this is a mutawatir hadith, which means the level of authenticity is the same as the Quran. So to reject it is like rejecting your whole faith. So Muslims have to accept this reality. Whoever harms a non-Muslim under our protection harms the Prophet himself. Very, very key concept. And there are many other concepts. For example, the Prophet, upon whom peace, said, اتَّقُوا الظُّلْمَ فَإِنَّ الظُّلْمَ ظُلُمَاتٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, which means be conscious of oppression and injustice, for it's going to be darkness on the day of judgment. The Quran says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِتِينَ. Indeed, unquestionably, without a doubt, God loves the just. And there's so many values and principles and mechanisms to implement them that were implemented in Spain. So it is no wonder Professor Thomas Arnold, the Arabist and historian, he said that if it wasn't for Muslim Spain, and listen carefully, these are historians talking, if it wasn't for Muslim Spain, we wouldn't have the Renaissance. If it wasn't for Muslim Spain, we wouldn't have the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. Even Mary Minakol, who is a scholar on Islamic Spanish history, she says exactly the same thing. What about Robert Bruffaut? He says that the West is highly indebted, is in debt to Islam concerning the scientific revolution and progress. And this is why when the Christians took over Toledo, when they took over Islamic Spain, they found manuscripts on astronomy, on physics, on mathematics, on literature, on geology, geography, on nearly every subject. And they took that, translated them, and it facilitated the Renaissance. And that is directly as a result of the teachings of Muhammad upon him be peace. Because if you look into Europe and you saw the Catholic Church, not the one we know today, but maybe a negative interpretation of the Catholic Church, it used to use the coercive arm of the state to prevent thinking that was antithetical to its dogma. For instance, as a result, you had Martin Luther, who pegged on a church door in Wittenberg his thesis attacking the Catholic tradition that facilitated, if you like, 30-year wars, the 80-year wars, the massacre on St. Bartholomew's Day. I mean, Europe, it was crazy. Islam didn't have the same historical baggage, you see. So you see how Islam facilitated the Renaissance. So when we go to the Apple store, we should go inside, or maybe as a Muslim, if you consider yourself to be a Muslim, say, I want my free iPhone 5. Because Muhammad gave you this. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to do that, man. Yeah? Or, for example, instead of saying Apple is their trademark, underneath they should have Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All grateful thanks is due to Allah, due to God, the Lord of everything that exists. And we should be not egotistically proud about this as Muslims, but we should wake up that we have a history beyond 1971. Yeah, especially if you're Desi, you think the world started in the 70s because that's when some colonialist drew some line on the map, and then we think that defines who we are. We are crazy people, man. Crazy. So, and this is why I don't get why Americans are so patriotic. I don't get that sometimes. Because we're all immigrants, right? Aren't we? There's no such thing as intrinsically American, unless you're American Indian, of course, but most of them died or got wiped out. Come on, let's be honest, man. We're all immigrants, if you think about it. So that should link humanity in a more profound way. I remember my dad used to teach me this because he's not a Christian, really. He comes from an Orthodox background, but he's more of a New Age philosopher. And he used to teach us this since the age of 7. There are no nationalities, and stuff like that. We're just human. And I used to go to Greek school on Saturdays to learn how to read and write Greek. And the priest, he would be a priest because the church and state is very married in Greece at the moment. And the priest would say, what makes you Greek? So everyone would be speaking. And I was like one of the last guys. He said, what makes you Greek? So everyone was mentioning dance, music, literature, poetry, all this stuff. And he asked me, I said, well, I don't really believe in that concept because, my dad taught me that these are just lines that some guy you don't even know drew, and that you think that makes who you are, and it's very shallow. And he paused, and he looked at me, everyone was really quiet, this guy's a traitor, and he went, that's also a Greek idea. So you can't run away from it, man. Anyway, so, where was I? Oh, thank you. So the iPhone. So scientific revolution and progress as a result of Muhammad upon him be peace. Next point, okay? Presumption of innocence. Who's gone to court before? Come on, Muslims should all put their hands up in America. Yeah? Good. Okay, we've gone to court, right? Now, generally speaking, or in the book, you should be presumed innocent before you're guilty, okay? Unless your name is Palamela Geller, okay? And it's very interesting what she said the other day about falafel, and somehow that facilitates terrorism. I mean, what's wrong with these people? I don't get this. I mean, people need doctors, do you know that? They don't need religion, they need medicine. This is crazy. How can you believe falafel is the food of the mujahideen? So therefore don't sell falafel. I mean, do you know what falafel is made of? It's like lentils, right? I mean, chickpeas. Oh, but how soft can you get your chicken, right? Chickpeas, I mean, come on. And yeah, did you see Praise, the guy who killed all those people in Norway? I mean, I don't get this. This is probably one of the bad products of excessive freedom of speech. You get people to say silly things all the time, and they create such a social construct on the media that it's just really negative. I mean, I know that doesn't represent American society. By the way, I think American society is a better society than British society, and I'm British. I used to work for Northrop Grumman, make the F-16, bomb people, right? Well, I left because I became Muslim, but the point is, I used to work for them, and I was working in Virginia for a while, and people were so friendly. They were like, I had a much bigger bed at the time, and I was lost, and some guy would take me in his car, some stranger, and drive me like 20 minutes away, and say, have a good day. I'd be like, that would never happen in London. I mean, if that happens, you're there for more than 20 minutes and you're abducted. So, and even recently I went to the gym, and I said to the guy, I'm from Britain, I need to go to the gym, I'm jet lagged, whatever the case would be. He said, here, have a week free pass. Americans are nice people. We don't have that outdated cliche about the Yanks, yeah? We don't have that. We really respect them and love them. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because I think anyone of conscience should stand up to this rubbish, because it transcends religion and ideology. It's just absolute vile. I mean, how can you even equate food to terrorism, or how can you like praise people who killed innocents? Anyway.